Hi everyone and welcome to a quick video on the Panasonic gh5. This is yet another video on the Panasonic gh5. Basically I've got my replacement today and this is the first video I've done on it. That's that. But yeah, so what do we think to the gh5? Well, now mine doesn't stay upside down when I flip the screen out. That's great. I am using, just for the crack, I'm using face detection, f2.8, 50th of a second, shooting at 4K 50, because obviously I'm in PAL. So that's the settings. We'll see if it holds focus. I will tell you on the previous video I chose custom multi and it did lose it a couple of times. So we'll just see. Anyway, but it's not an autofocus video. So what do we say? Well, personally, I think the Panasonic gh5 is still a fantastic camera. No camera that is released never comes out without any little quirks. They all have little quirks and they never get fixed. It's just how it is. I mean, Sony overheats, and you get free vlog, but I know some at Canon cameras, like I've got massive crop factors on them and people moan about stuff. But some of those cameras were the greatest cameras of all time. I mean, the GH4, people moan about its low light, but it's a classic camera of all time. It's one of the best loved cameras that's ever been released, especially for video, and people love it. And the GH5 will be the same, I'll assure you. It won't flop and Panasonic will have to make a GH6 in 6 months. It's not going to happen. Even though the autofocus isn't perfect, it was never going to be perfect anyhow. I know that you've seen me slagging it off, but I'm not slagging it off to put anybody off buying a Panasonic gh5. I'm just saying what I find so that I can tell my subscribers and anybody watching the videos the truth. But the truth is, I love my gh5. Would I like it to be a touch better on autofocus if possible? Would it be in 2017? Yes. But every other feature is great, and the autofocus within reason, if you keep an eye on it, does work okay. And I know with the firmware update, I'm pretty confident that Panasonic will tweak it. By the way, I don't know if you've guessed, but I am using the in-camera microphones. So the audio... Oh, no, I'm not. Sorry, no, I've put my lapel back on. I was using the in-camera audio before. So, yeah, GH5's got twin card slots. I mean, that's a phenomenal feature to be able to go to, whether it be a wedding, but in my case, a wedding. And we can go to the ceremony, and I can give Dave a 64 gig card for his camera. We can put one of Dave's 64 gig cards in mine as well as my own 64. Then at the end of the ceremony he can give me a card and I can give him one of mine. We've both got a backup of the ceremony with no copying onto a laptop or anything like that. Also, you've got a backup of the footage. I mean, that feature alone's got to be worth X amount of pounds. And then you've got your 4K 60, which is a stunning, absolute stunning feature. There's no ways around it. And then you've got your 4K, you've got your 10-bit internal recording. Now, I know a lot of people have given that a bit of cane and a bit of pasty, but I think that's all going to change once they bring out the 422 and they bring out the all-intra codec, the 400 megabit one. I think then you'll really see just how good 10-bit is. I don't know if it'll be as good as a £1,000 recorder on its own or not. I don't know, but it'll probably be better than 8-bit. And what more can you ask for, really, in a small little camera like the GH5? I know that you could probably say, well, John, you said you'd like a bigger sensor and you'd like better low light performance. And that is true, I would. But then if I were to get a bigger sensor, I'd straight away, the lenses would be no good. So I wouldn't have these, like this camera's on a monopod now. It's on a monopod, just a Sirui monopod with sort of feet on it about that big, 3 feet. And it's balanced and it stood there and it's absolutely great. It even works with a 35 to 100 on. If I was to flick this so that it was a APC size sensor, now I'd have a lens which would be much heavier and it would probably just tip the monopod straight forward. So, you know, you've got your benefits in your size. I know we all think size matters, especially when it comes to women. But when it comes to cameras, size can also be a good thing. You know, you're carrying it around all day. I know me and Dave, we're sort of changing our attitude on weddings all the time. We video the wedding now and we've got big 1.8 metre wafing tripods and and they're great. They hold the camera steady. We've got big external monitors. Well, big external monitors, they're 7-inch, but they're still a lot bigger than what's on the camera. And we're actually thinking, especially now with IBIS, that's another thing that the GH5 has got. We're really just on about ditching them because they're just hard to manoeuvre around. If a situation changes and you need to quickly move, it's just impossible. We're thinking of maybe starting to use Serwies so that we can sort of manually zoom with his feet. And if we want to keep the ISO under 1600, we can always flick to a prime, get a couple of nice primes, flick to a prime and manually zoom like this with his feet, instead of zooming with the lens. The lens is good to zoom, but you know, it's a lazy way. I don't know if we'll stick to the monopods because they can rock a little bit when people are walking around, but usually in most ceremonies, it's pretty solid, it's floor, so you'd get away with it. And to be fair, I wouldn't really leave it on its own in the middle of a wedding, just in case it did tip, because you'd look a right pleb. Especially you'd be crying because your GH5 might be on floor. But mine's never done it yet, and it's been on monopod loads of times. I won't mind a bigger monopod, but there you go. So yeah, GH5, highly recommend it. My videos are not to slag it off and make it look terrible. They're just to let you know the little flaws that it's got. But like we've just discussed, you will have loads of flaws in, well, you've got flaws in every camera that comes out. No camera's perfect. And like I think Sony's was overeating one of their big flaws. And I mean, that's got to be a much bigger flaw than focus, missing focus every now and then. And we've got Panasonic, which are known to be really good for trying to fix firmware updates and stuff, whereas Sony and stuff like that are meant to be. I've not had them, so I'm not talking through my experience, but I have looked into the Sony because it did the A6500 or the A7S Mark II. I was thinking of getting a full frame and going there. But what I'm going to do is, the GH5, I'm going to stick with it a bit longer, and if I'm still happy with it, which I'm sure I will be, and I'm not happy with the low light, I'm just going to buy a Metabone speed booster, and I'll buy an 18 to 35 1/8 Sigma, and I'll buy a couple of prime lenses for it. That'll let in another stop and a third light just on its own. And I don't think there'd be any situation what would be no good there. But to be honest, I think with the 2.8 lenses on it, for what we do, the other day we did get caught in the lowest light we've been caught in for a couple of years. And there was a bit of grain on the GH5, especially on the groom's jacket. But I think I was at about 1600, and I think Dave might have been at like 64 or something. So that's how dark it was. And to be fair, my D750, I shot the ceremony at 12,800 at 1/100 of a second, and that would drag in the shutter really. I think I was at f4. I only had an f4 lens with me. You know, so that tells you just how bloody dark it was. It was really, really dark in there. But anyway, thanks for watching. Please comment and subscribe, and don't forget, if you want a GH5, don't let the inconsistent autofocus bother you. Nobody's done it on the GH4. That's had the same autofocus. They really slagged it off for ISO and said it wasn't great, but thousands of people love the GH4 and thousands of people will still use the GH4, and the GH5 is an upgrade even on the autofocus. We've only jumped on it, like I said before, because all the reps was saying how good it was, so I was really excited about this new autofocus. Then I found out it wasn't quite as good as I thought, but now I'm tweaking it. It's okay. Keep an eye on it. You can get away with it. If it gives you any hassle, then we'll just flick it into manual and do what we've always done. And like you say, they might bring a firmware update which will improve it a little bit as well. And then that'll be absolutely fantastic. But yeah, thanks for watching. Please comment and subscribe.